Alrighty, let's go. Welcome back into the Skooshi Sport Podcast. Going to chat a bit about NBA in this podcast here. Usually I'm going to do like a bit of like a weekly recap, chatting about, NBA news going on, have a look at the standings, sort of trending teams and whatnot. And I'll touch on that pretty briefly just at the end of this one. But I kind of want to dedicate this podcast to a bit of an interesting topic that sort of sprung into like a little bit of my socials a little bit and just sort of sprung into my mind a little bit over the last sort of few days in the last sort of week or so, I guess, since filming the last podcast. And the big question I want to ask and point out is, can Luka Dončić win the MVP? Or essentially anyone, I guess, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. When I take a look at the current NBA MVP odds, which is generally a pretty good indicator, a good dictator of where, I guess, the market is and where I guess the results will sort of lean to near the end of the season here. What have we got? I think we've got 15, 16 games left to go in the regular season. At the moment, both players are going to be eligible to play, to be eligible for MVP. They're going to be playing enough games this season, pending any future injuries. But if they play out the rest of the season, they will both be eligible for MVP. However, I'm going to show you the stats and why I think Luka is actually a consideration for MVP despite his huge odds. So if we have a look like currently at the odds, which I'm using Bet3654. So SGA currently at the moment is a $1.10 favorite for NBA MVP. You put $100 on that, you are winning $10 from that if he wins MVP. Just $10. Ridiculous, right? I think it's I don't think he's like being like that kind of dominant player that so far this season that warrants him being a $1.10 favorite. We've got Victor Wembanyama at $13. We've got Nikola Jokic $17. Cade Cunningham at 51. Then we got Luka Dončić at 76. Now, I'm sure in other bookies he probably could be a bit more. He could be a bit less. This is just what I generally go to and what I have a look at. Probably good consensus. Luka Dončić at $76 compared to $1.10. Now, let's cross over to the stats here. I'm just going to pull up my screen here, and I'm just going to show you the stats that we're looking at from Luka's season so far. So I'm just going to get rid of those ads, obviously, if you're watching here. All right, so at the moment, okay, it's just a bit loud now. Thank you, Baba. So if we have a look at Luka's games so far this season, he's played 56 so far this season. I'm just going to go through Luka's stats and then we can compare it to SGA. Now, more than welcome to hear your opinion about this one here. I just want to point out that I just think these odds between these two are very quite large, and the stats I think are quite similar, if not suit Luka a little bit more. So 56 games played so far, average of 32.9 points a game, which is leading the league. Average, we got 7.9 rebounds, 8.5 assists, 1.5 steals, 0.6 blocks, 10.6 field goals made per game, field goal percentage of 47.4. We got 3.9 3-pointers made. What I do want to point out, because I believe SGA is quite known for this, I'm going to be probably proven wrong though, is 10.1 free throw attempts a game. Now, main stats you're looking at is probably, I said, the points, rebounds, assists, and then potentially, that's sort of the main three that we look at, right? I said, so let's say 32.9 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 8.5 assists a game, playing 56 games. Now, let's cross over to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has played 57 games compared to 56. So one more game than Luka so far this season. So 57 games, 31.7 points on average a game. So compared to 32.9 with Luka. We've got 4.5 rebounds a game compared to 7.9 with Luka. You got 6.6 assists a game with SGA compared to 8.5 assists with Luka. Now, all three of those main stats there would tell you that Luka is averaging better at all three quite convincingly as well, over a point, assist, or rebound in all three categories there. However, now let's keep going. Let's look at 10.9 field goals made by SGA per game. With Luka, we've got 10.6. So SGA just gets the edge there. 3-pointers made by SGA, 1.8. I think Luka was 3.9. So again, Luka takes that one there. Then the last one I wanted to look at is because this is what I think of SGA. So Luka, 10.1 free throws attempt per game. SGA's 9.1. Okay. So I maybe I just had in my head that I'm going to put my hand up there. I didn't actually check these stats before I recorded, but I just thought SGA generally tends to be a bit of a foul merchant. But if that's the only one that we're realistically looking at, like Luka's making his points by shooting more threes. Like, this is what I mean. Like, are we looking at the MVP stats, like, in terms of what impact a player has on a team? Like, if we go back and have a look at the standings here, you'll see that OKC, I get it, the number one seed in the West, and they're 10.5 games ahead of the Lakers. But, like, it's not a team thing. It's a player thing. You're looking at the most valuable player to a team. Now, I can get behind the MVP. Like, it's the most valuable player to a team. Take SG out of OKC, how would they perform? You take Luka out of the Lakers, how would they perform? And I know the arguments. You've still got LeBron, you've still got Austin Reeves, you've still got Hachimura. You've got a pretty talented squad around OKC, I think, as well. However, these two players are definitely like the fundamentals to their team, right? But I just think if you look at the stats between these two players, as I said, Luka's got more points, more assists, more rebounds, and SGA has played one more game than Luka so far this season. Why is Luka $76 to win MVP? I'm just not quite getting it. Like, as I said, if you're looking at team's record, then that's based on the team's record, right? Like, I don't think it should be based on what the team's record is. OKC were the number one seed like last year, I believe, as well. And Lakers are now won 6 in a row. They're now 9-1 the last 10. I get a 10.5 games off the pace from OKC in that conference there. But is it really worth SGA to be $1.10 in the odds? It just really baffles me. Like, and that's just what I'm a bit confused about. And what I want to ask you guys, what you actually think. Is SGA a clear MVP for you that actually warrants these odds? Just, I said, bit of a perplexing one. Luka, 32.9. Let's just run through it again quickly. So we've got points, 32.9, 7.9 rebounds, 8.5 assists a game for Luka. For SGA, 31.7 points, 4.5 rebounds, 6.6 assists a game. Luka, for me, in my opinion, there. If Luka has really strong stats coming home in these last, what are we looking at? Like last 14 games of the season, why shouldn't Luka win MVP? Like, why shouldn't Luka win MVP is my question. I think it should be a lot tighter. I think there should be a lot more consideration for. I haven't even looked at the other players like your Wembanyama's, your Kay Cunninghams, that sort of thing. Nikola Jokic. I haven't even looked at those guys, but I just think the comparison from SGA to Luka, odds-wise, is massive. But you look at the stats. If you were to show me the stats at the end of those season there, and then say who wins MVP, mate, for me it's Luka. So yeah, very interesting one there for me, and just a very interesting discussion. So I'm very intrigued to see what people think about that one there. But nevertheless, let's get stuck into a little bit of an NBA weekly recap here. I'm just going to touch on it pretty briefly here. So as usual, guys, just going to talk briefly about the standings, give you my team of the week, give you my loser team of the week as well, then go through the championship odds pretty quickly. Haven't updated massively in the last sort of week or so, but in the East at the moment, I'll show you these standings again, but we've got 7 losses separating the Boston Celtics, who are currently second in the East, currently from the Miami Heat, who are 7th in the East at the moment. So very sort of tight there. Those sort of middle teams, like your Knicks, your Cavs, Raptors, Magic, are all sort of very tight, hanging around the Eastern Conference. Going to be very interesting to see if Miami can potentially make that 6th spot and like not have to play the play-in. who they push out and who actually gets into that top four. Like I'd say Boston and New York will probably get second and third, but who actually snags that fourth spot there to actually get home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. When it comes to the East, we got 4 losses separating the Lakers, who are second in the conference at the moment, from the Phoenix Suns, who are also 7th in the conference there as well. So again, bit of a logjam when it comes to the West from 3rd to 7th there. Who's going to make that top 6 and not have to play the play-in, and who's going to snag that 3rd and 4th spot there to gain home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, which is obviously quite important. Speaking of Luka and the Lakers, the Lakers actually get my team of the week at the moment. They are on an absolute hot streak. They've won 6 in a row at the moment. They're 4-0 in the last week, and they've had some really strong wins as well. I'll just show you or tell you what their wins were very quickly in the last week or so, or part of the 6-game winning streak. So they did beat Indiana by 11. That's pretty easy. They beat the Knicks by 13 at home. They beat Minnesota by 14. They beat Chicago by 12. So it's 4 double-digit wins in a row. They beat the Denver Nuggets in overtime as well. And then they've gone to Houston and beat them by 8 there as well, just a couple of days ago. Very good performance. Dončić 36. He got 51 against Chicago, 31 against the Wolves, 35 against New York, 44 against the Pacers. He is literally leading the point tally in majority of these games that the Lakers play, if not the assists and if not the rebounds as well, which I guess is kind of proving my point a little bit further and why I think Luka should be highly considered for MVP title this year, despite those odds. Loser of the week is the Memphis Grizzlies. 8 losses in a row for Memphis at the moment. They're absolutely falling downhill. They are turned from chocolates to boiled lollies and everything else in between. Holy dooly, they have fallen well off a cliff. 8 losses in a row. 0-4 in the last week for Memphis at the moment, and it has not been easy for Memphis. They've lost to Minnesota, they've lost to Portland, the Clippers, they've lost to the Nets, they've lost to the Sixers, Mavericks, Detroit, and they've lost to Chicago by 25 recently as well. Freaking embarrassing. We'll show you the standings later, but the West is pretty much, and the East, I guess, is all pretty much locked up in terms of the play-in spots ready to go. Odds-wise, so we've still got OKC as heavy favorites at 225. Boston and Spurs rounding out second and third at 7 and 750. Denver Nuggets are under double digits at 950. And then we click into our double digits. Probably the next 3 teams are somewhat contenders. Cavs, Knicks, and Pistons all in the double digits there. And then we've got the Rockets rounding out at $41 there. Could I see anyone outside of that making a charge? Like maybe, honestly, let's see what the Lakers are, because Lakers are $51 at the moment. You just never know. They stay healthy. You just honestly never know. Wolves 41. Again, you just never really know, do you? So all looking very sort of interesting heading into the 14, 15 games away from the playoffs here. But let's have a look at the current standings at the moment. Just going to widen my screen here. So all right, currently at the moment, as I said, we've still got Detroit heading on top of the East there. They are still 4 losses behind OKC in terms of the overall standings. Not that it matters. Boston, New York, Cavs, Raptors, and Magic riding out the top 6 at the moment in the East. But just half a game behind. He's doing a bit of hot streak at the moment, both 7 and 3. Same with the Magic, I guess, at the moment. Just half a game behind the Magic there for that play-in spot. But, mate, could have been my team of the week again. They were last week. The Atlanta Hawks, 10 in a row. They are on absolute fire at the moment now. 1 loss or 1 win away, essentially, from snagging 6th spot. They're absolutely charged. Even could finish 5th spot in the East, which is freaking wild to think about. 6 has been absolutely everywhere at the moment since Tyrese Maxey has been injured. 4 and 6 in that last 10. I believe Tyrese Maxey is back in a couple weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. And then we got the Charlotte Hornets rounding out this 10th spot there. 7 and 3 in the last 10. I said bit of a gap, 6.5 games between them and the Bucks, who are 11th. And then I said the Bulls and Bucks, I just don't really see them charging. You got Nets, Wizards, and Pacers, who are pretty darn awful. In the West, OKC still leading as they have been all freaking season long. 9 wins in a row. And then Spurs are just a few games behind that. And then I said the logjam from Lakers to Suns is pretty epic. You got the Lakers, Rockets just behind, Nuggets and Wolves are all Rockets, Nuggets and Wolves are all on the same record at the moment there. And I said you've got the Suns in 7th. And then 8th, 9th, 10th, you got the Clippers, Warriors, and the Blazers. The Warriors are playing, they're so banged up at the moment. They're 3-7 in the last 10. They're just hobbling into the play-ins, but they should make it. As I said, rounding out the bottom of that is the Grizzlies, Pelicans, Mavs, Jazz, and Kings, who are absolutely nowhere near it. So, kind of disappointing that like the top 10 teams are pretty much already decided for like the play-ins and playoffs. I'd like to see a bit more of a race to see who can get into that play-in, but at the moment now it's just going to be more who's going to get into that top 6, who's going to get home court, for the play-ins. You'll see most teams have played 68, 69 games, even 67 games. So we've still got 13, 14, 15 games left of the regular season. Very intrigued to see where it ends up come end of the 82 games in terms of the standings. But that's just, I said, a little bit of a weekly recap for you. My main question is, can Luka Dončić win the MVP this season? I think $76 for him is just absolutely ridiculous odds compared to what SGA is at $1.10. But let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. But that will do it for me. Going to hit the hay for this NBA weekly recap and the big question for me. But I said, let me know in the comments what you think. But that'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And cheers.